When he was young, Christoph Klein had to make a choice, music or medicine. In the end, he opted for medicine and considered going to Africa to treat children. In addition to medicine, Christoph Klein studied philosophy, completed further training in Munich, Freiburg and Paris, and finally went to the Boston Children's Hospital in the United States. As a doctor, it is his special concern to commit himself to those who are often overlooked. However, ultimately, he stays in Germany and Europe, where he dedicates his attention in particular to children with rare diseases.
Everybody has heard about the problems of children with behavioral issues. Everyone knows what cancer in children is. Modern lifestyle diseases such as obesity, ADHD are well-known threats because they affect a large number of patients. The diseases we treat here at the Children's Hospital are so rare that there are probably only 5, 10 or 50 cases in Germany. Of course, this means that most people, including most doctors, know very little about them.
Auch die meisten Ärztinnen und Ärzte davon sehr wenig nur verstehen.
Since 2011, Christoph Klein has been Professor of Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine and Medical Director of the Pediatric Clinic at Dr. von Hauner Children's Hospital at Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich. He is convinced that rare diseases deserve the same attention in research and treatment as common diseases.
Wir sind heute, auch aufgrund des Fortschritts in der Biologie.
Thanks to advances in biology and the natural sciences, we now have a much better understanding of diseases than we did 100 years ago. We now understand genes, the effects of genetic variations, and cell signaling pathways. Thanks to the genetic engineering, we can also turn specific genes on and off in a cell.
Most rare diseases in children are the result of small genetic errors. In order to develop effective therapies, it is necessary to understand the causes of a disease in detail. Genetics now offers particularly good opportunities in this regard, helping to develop new treatment approaches.
Es ist uns möglich, innerhalb von 48.
We can decode a child's entire genome in just 48 to 72 hours. We have had cases of newborn babies who were seriously ill and no one knew why. Genome sequencing allowed us to identify the problem within 2 days and provide targeted treatment.
The young scientist and pediatrician Daniel Petersheim is part of Christoph Klein's research team. He received funding for his doctorate from the Hector Fellow Academy. His research focuses on rare diseases of the blood and immune system.
Unser menschliches Genom hat ungefähr 3 Milliarden.
Our human genome is composed of approximately 3 billion base pairs. In other words, the bases A, C, G, and T, which are organized in a specific sequence on the chromosomes. This is called the genetic sequence. Each gene consists of a sequence of a certain number of these bases. Even the exchange of a single base can ultimately lead to the creation of a defective protein.
Humans have around 20,000 genes, which provide the instructions for building just as many proteins. In every cell, many thousands of proteins work together in complex networks, comparable to interlocking gears. If one of these proteins fails or does not work properly, important cellular processes can be disrupted, and this can lead to disease. One example of such a disease is congenital neutropenia, which is characterized by a lack of white blood cells in the body. Megha Varghese Mukherjee is working to decipher the disease's underlying mechanisms. To this end, she is attempting to artificially replicate the genetic defect that causes this disease in the laboratory. She is using molecular and cell biology methods to achieve this.
So the how part of my project comes into play here, I could say. We take these stem cells, we make them into white blood cells, and then we also make certain edits to mimic what mutations our patients have, and then we try to investigate what's happening in those cells. So cell culture, Western blots, and then proteomics analysis, I would say, are our major method.
Megha, who is from India and studied biology in the United States and Sweden, came to Munich to join Christoph Klein's research group for her doctoral research. Like Daniel Petersheim, she's receiving funding by the Hector Fellow Academy. It is important to her that her scientific work has a direct reference to patients.
One of the reasons that I chose Professor Klein's lab is that I'm interested in translational research, which means that instead of just doing basic science or doing research that is involved with patients directly, you sort of merge the two. So you're doing what is essentially basic science, but also has a lot of clinical applications. And that's something I wanted to do because I wanted to also give back to the community. So that's something I wanted to learn.
The causes of disease are often easier to identify in children because external influences play a smaller role than they do in adults. According to Christoph Klein, each genetic defect in a child is like a piece of a puzzle. When they are put together, they can sometimes provide new insights into how common diseases in adults can be treated. Beyond his daily work, Christoph Klein believes it is important to give children a voice and raise public awareness of their situation. This commitment led him to co-found the Care for Rare Foundation. The foundation promotes research into rare diseases, supports the training and further education of doctors and scientists, and raises awareness of rare diseases among experts and the public.
Es geht aber auch darum, dass wir uns als Advokaten verstehen unserer Patientinnen und Patienten.
But it is also about seeing ourselves as advocates for our patients, who are still the orphans of medicine, because they do not bring in money. The pharmaceutical industry generally has little interest in investing in the research and development of therapeutics for diseases that occur only perhaps 200 times worldwide, which is understandable but bad for those affected. This is where the university has a special mission, as well as foundations, associations, and civil society organizations, to commit more than the industry would do on its own.
Moreover, Christoph Klein would like to see the principles of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child to be implemented in healthcare for all children, and to ensure that children are listened to and taken seriously. He therefore initiated the Children and Youth Research Council in Munich. It consists of a group of over 20 children and adolescents, aged between 10 and 18. Some of them are affected by a disease themselves, while others are part of the council because it is important to them to express their point of view.
Unser Kinder- und Jugendrat ist ein Experiment.
Our Children and Youth Council is an experiment, but it is based on the principles of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which states that children not only have the right to be protected and supported, but also have the right to be heard and to participate. And if we are serious about involving children, then we must give them a forum for that.
Es ist sicherlich nicht nur wünschenswert, sondern geboten.
It is certainly not only desirable, but also necessary to involve our young patients as much as possible in treatment and therapy decisions. Every child has the right to understand their illness, how it affects them, and what they can do about it. This right to participate in decision-making processes is also enshrined in UN conventions and should be respected by us pediatricians every day.
Entscheidungsfindung ist auch verbrieft durch die UN und sollte von uns Kinderärzten auch jeden Tag respektiert werden.
Christoph Klein is convinced that children have a right to benefit from advances in medicine. Medicine must continuously evolve, adopt a holistic approach, and have the appropriate framework conditions in place. Only then can treatment be truly child-friendly. There is much to learn from children when treating adults, but a child's well-being must always come first.